no intro video. I hate intro videos. Anyway, here we are with no intro video, chatting comics and Vince Evans, if anybody remembers him.
Are we live?
We are live.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah,
a little live. I didn't see the thing pop up. Okay.
20 seconds, no 24 videos. Seconds.
I'll have Vince Evans. I'll have you know I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted.
You're flabbergasted?
Yes.
Why is that?
Non compos menti that you did not have an intro video. and in other words that are long in Latin and make no sense. I'm also that.
No intro video.
Hey,
do we have a theme song?
I forgot my water.
We don't have. We should get one. We should ask an AI to do one instead of paying a
AI make us intro video.
Yeah.
Because that's going to end well.
Go through 100 hours of our footage and make intro video. Here's some intro balloons. There you go. That's exciting. But we were just talking a little Vince Evans. I don't know how many out there remember him. Happy holidays, Comic Crack. He was a bullpenner with me in the early 90s, and then he was a freelance painter for a few years. I don't know what he's doing now. I see his wife on Facebook. He's usually not on there. But I was talking about one particular Spider-Man painting. We had Spider-Man crawling at you like this. That was popular in the early 90s. And he took actual cotton and stretched it over the painting to be webs.
Mm-hmm.
He may have been the first one to do that. I don't know. I've seen other people do that since, but not in a while. Now you just put digital web button and it goes up.
Pretty much. Yeah, I don't recall. I remember the image. I remember the poster because they did a lot with that. That was a comic book cover. It was a poster. It was reused to do like within a book just full of posters. I think Marvel printed that at least maybe 3 or 4 times in a book format. It may have even been a card for all I know. And I don't recall if I actually held the original and gave it back to Vince.
I was there when he brought it in, so I that's how I remember it too. The cotton stretched across it.
Right.
Matter of fact, that poster hung at Marvel as you were right outside the bathroom. I think it was.
That sounds about right.
If you were walking from your office, you went down towards the bullpen and then hooked a left and went towards the bathroom. I think it was on the wall just past the bathroom.
That seems correct. I have a vague,
remembrance
of some of the posters that were all over the offices.
I remember some of
the poster that was outside my office.
What was that?
I had first I had a Daredevil, Frank Miller Daredevil. Then I had Iron Man, where he's like running towards the reader, and they had all the armors behind, and that was because I'm trying to say if I remember this correctly. I had personally gotten the poster framed to put it there.
Okay.
I think the Daredevil one.
Yep.
And then
who did it?
I think there was a Frank Miller Daredevil poster where he's standing on a wire. Early Frank Miller.
All right.
And he's like Daredevil standing on a wire. He has his logo above him, and he's kind of looking down to the city, but he's just standing right on a wire. And that was outside my door for quite a number of years until Bob Greenberg got an office at Marvel, and he went looking for artwork for his office, and he took it off the wall. And it was like, where did this thing go? It's like, hey. So the next one I posted up was the Iron Man one. And I wrote on the back, personal property of Wilson Ramos.
Which Iron Man one?
It's the Iron Man that Bob Layton drew. I believe it was Bob. And it's Iron Man running towards the reader, and all the other armors are behind him. And it's the it sounds silly to sound. It was the newest armor he had at that time. So it was when he kind of went back to the red and gold big boots. It looked like a Spider-Man costume because of the way the armor was put together. And it was right after, or just not too long after, the Centurion armor, which was the silver and red one.
Okay, yeah.
So John Jr. was drawing that when John was drawing the Iron Man books, but that was a Bob Layton cover.
I'm trying to remember the posters that hung in the bullpen. There was definitely a Punisher one. I think it was a Mike Zeck Punisher
Zeck Punisher one with all the graffiti around it.
And didn't it have like him? You saw him standing like this, and there was something behind him, targets or maybe in graffiti too.
There was a wall of graffiti, and I think he was walking with a big gun, with a large weapon, if I remember correctly.
And it was one of the airbrushed Mike Zeck ones.
Yes, it was definitely airbrushed. And then within the graffiti were editors' names and stuff like that. Or various Marvel.
There were
toys.
There were at least two Mobius ones. The Mobius Iron Man one, where he's just kind of standing there looking at you with that weird Mobius Iron Man mask.
There was the Mobius Iron Man. There was the Mobius thing, which is
I forgot about that one.
The close-up of his head.
Yeah.
There was the Mobius Spider-Man one on the hallway walk where the big Hulk was.
Okay.
So right to the stairs to go up to 11, there was a giant Hulk that was made out of like wood and some sort of plastic thing. I don't know if it was plexiglass or something like that. So leading up to that, there was the pretty sure there was the Spider-Man one, which is Spider-Man like in a hole of a pillar.
Yeah. Eric P says Punisher with a big gun. That seems on brand.
Very much so. Then
there was a Mobius Silver Surfer too, which I think was the cover from the graphic novel.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then there was trying to remember what else was in the bullpen. I don't know if the bullpen had the giant Marvel, all the covers for the Marvel universe, or that was on my side of the hallway.
I think the bullpen may have had that George Perez one with 1 million characters on it.
Yeah, it had the double. Was it
Avengers one? I think it was.
It had the John Byrne one.
Okay.
Where one side was the DC characters and the other side were the Marvel characters. And they were like unofficial posters that could connect. And we had them connecting in the office.
I remember, I think it was a George Perez Avengers one where he drew, I think it was horizontal.
Yes.
And all every character who was in the Avengers up till that time.
As a matter of fact, yes. I just don't recall where that one was.
That one, I think, was in the bullpen. If you can't recall where it was probably in the bullpen because it had posters on the pillars that were in the middle of the room.
Right.
It's probably easier for you to remember where they were in the hallways.
Yeah, pretty much. I know there was like by the coffee maker, there was a very large Spider-Man and Mary Jane piece. That was just a really tall piece.
Lots of posters. That was primarily the art that was in the Marvel offices at that time was posters.
Yeah, they were mainly obviously Marvel posters all over the place. Nicely framed too.
Yeah,
some of them had some cool things on them too, like so right when you get downstairs to manufacturing, the moment you go from 9 to from 10 to 9, right at the end of the staircase, was one of those X-Men crossover posters that went through all the X-Men books. I don't recall which one it was, but it was, changing the timelines. So the poster had like a shattering effect to it, but when it was framed, they added like silver foil or something to the frame. So it looked like it was shattering. So it was not only just the poster art, the framers added more to it.
Wow.
To make it even more fun.
More fun.
And right at reception, I remember there was the uncut Marvel cards for the editors.
Oh, yes.
Or editorial. It wasn't just the editors. Quite a few people did have those cards.
Whoever was in editorial at the time that they made a card for.
Yes.
Because some didn't get cards because I think whoever, there were some extras done in Marvel Age. Because I know they did a bullpen card for Steve Bunch. They did one for Ed Murr. And then I think later on there was even more that Tim Toohey did in, like, what was that magazine he used to do?
Marvel Vision.
Marvel Vision. There we go. Marvel Vision. Want to show us a comic you got this week? How many comics did you get?
I didn't count them, but here's the stack of books I brought home. This is at least 3 weeks worth of books, and then a few that I pulled off the rack.
I'm not making it to the comic shop till tomorrow, so for the first time in our show, I don't have new comics to show, but I have a few I can show some of my Christmas stuff. My Christmas comics.
There you go. Since I've been enjoying the Transformers, the sister book is G.I. Joe. They started with issue 1. By the time I put it on my list, which I was telling you earlier, is that I had to add some stuff to the list. So the list will start with G.I. Joe number 3, but the rack still had issues 1 and 2. This was the only cover I could find for issue 1. I have no idea who that is. And I'm not even sure which printing this is since I'm not wearing my glasses.
Check I was going to say check the UPC, but if you're not wearing your glasses.
Yeah, the UPC is also upside down. It ends with 122.
So it's the second printing. It's it's issue 1, cover 2, second printing.
Right.
I imagine that.
So, I mean, it's a pretty cover.
Yeah. Who did the cover?
Some alien. Here are the symbols.
Okay.
Let's see what it says.
I don't recognize those ones.
So they were being cute with the credits pages. So lead operators, Joshua Williams, writer, Tom Riley, artist. It does not cover support. So I'm guessing these are the other covers. Jason Howard, and then there's one Patricia Martin. I don't know if it's one other cover, or if it's if they're alternate covers, or is this 2 cover artists, or is it penciler and inker? And it's not even coming out clear. So, yes, this is second.
I forget which companies do it. They put the cover artist above the UPC box. Have you ever seen that? It's some smaller companies do. Maybe Mad Cave does it, where if you turn to the UPC box, it'll say like John Byrne cover in little type above the. I like that. I'm all for that.
I can see that as well. I can see that as well.
Eric P says second printing Jason Howard Cobra. Marvel. Random Rip says Marvel does that usually. Okay, I haven't
noticed.
League of Comic Geeks.
So as I mentioned, I got issues 1 and 2. Haven't read them yet, so I don't know what the story is about yet. but there's Duke on the cover with the Baroness.
Is the Baroness good guy or is she bad? Is she Cobra or G.I. Joe?
She was usually Cobra, so I do not know because I haven't started the story yet.
Right.
I know in the movie she kind of started in between, and it's hard to tell. I try not to keep the movie as canon at all.
Eric P says she's working with G.I. Joe in this book.
Oh,
Red
okay.
Rip says, hey guys.
Hello. So those are the G.I. Joes that I got.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm happy about is I finally found a Chris Giarrusso cover.
All right.
For some reason, they didn't seem to have any of them the few times that I've checked. So I saw this one and grabbed it. I have no idea how many I'm missing.
Well, so far, 3 have come out. That's what, X-Men 9?
This is X-Men issue number 9.
So that means there's X-Men issue number 8. Then I think it's Uncanny X-Men issue number 8. Or maybe that's 7. And then X-Men number 9. So there's only one more left, which will be an Uncanny.
Oh, okay. Wondering if they would ever print them all together like they did with the book.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, what else do we have? We have Superman 7. Issue 21.
So the Uncanny was issue 7.
Issue 7 was the Uncanny?
Yeah. So it goes. What is it? That one's 9. So it's X-Men 8 and 9, and it's Uncanny 7, and now 8's going to come out. All 4 of those have Chris Giarrusso covers. Oh, he's Eric P says they're all printed together in the new Mini Marvel Smash collection. I will have to check that out.
Yeah,
I've got it on my what? I didn't see it in final order cutoff ever, so I've got it on my Amazon wish list right now to keep track of it. Which is I've got an Amazon decision to make where I've mentioned here before that the Hate hardcover box set has been on my Amazon wish list for a few years now. I want to get it, but I always seem to get something instead. And I've been saving up like credit card points to get it. You spend money on your credit card, they give you, $1 to spend at Amazon.
Right.
So I've been saving up the money, and it's an expensive book. It's, $100 book. I forget what I got last time instead of it. But this time I'm like, I want to see the problem. I have all the original issues of Hate, except for all the Hate annuals. But I also have the trade paperbacks of all the Hate stuff, but they're the smaller version, not the bigger one. So I'm like, I really don't need it. And it's $100. So I'm like, right now I'm like, ooh, Dark Horse has been putting out new collections of Richard Corbin's stuff. I have them. I think there's 5 volumes of them at the moment. They're usually around $35, but they've come down to about $20 a piece. There's, I forget the name of the first Richard Corbin one, but then there's Den 1, 2, and 3, which I have none of that stuff. May have a little of it, but really no. So I'm like, should I spend that $100 on Corbin, which I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to, once again, pass on getting that Hate slip hard case, oversized hardcover slipcase, because I'm like, you never know when these are going to go out of print too. Because what's weird about when you're looking for like hardcover stuff on Amazon or eBay, what happens is it comes out at $35, $50. Then kind of, if it's like not in demand stuff like Corbin, it drops down. But then it goes out of print and it slowly rises up again.
Right.
Like I was just It's funny too. Comic Crack was on his like Sunday night video last week. He was talking about. I think it was from Dark Horse. It was a Richard Corbin collection of his creepy work, creepy and eerie. And he's like, oh, he's like, I finally found this at a good price. He's like, I know it's really hard to get, and I'm like, I always find it funny when I hear something is really hard to get, but it's on my shelf. But I got it. It says from Dark Horse. Yes, yeah. But I got it, when it came out in 2012.
Right.
It's like, but it's like, I forget that these things get, I didn't get it just yesterday. I got it. That's why it's hard to get, because it's, 12 years later and it's out of print. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I ought to get those new Dark Horse Corbin books now rather than wait on them. Because I don't know if that hate hardcover, it's already gone out of print once and come back. I think they're going to keep it in print. And like I said, I've already got all the stuff. So it's like, you know what? I think I'm going to pass on it yet again in favor of something else.
Yeah, because you get more books technically for the same amount that you already saved up.
And books I've never read from somebody I like. No, I do love hate.
Making that choice. Yep.
Yeah. I think I've made that choice in my head already, but I'm kind of like, So Fanta is way better at keeping things in print. Is that who's doing the new ones, Fanta? Because wasn't Fanta his own publishing company? I thought Dark Horse was publishing this new stuff. I don't really know. I'll have to look again. And that they actually just came out with a new one though. There's 3 volumes of Den already out, and a 4th just came out too. But that one's still up at like $35. I'm like, if I wait 6 months, maybe it'll be down to 20 like the rest of them.
Right.
Oh, Fantagraphics. Okay.
Fantagraphics, yeah. Fantagore was his publishing company, but I don't think his wife wants to publish everything alone. No.
Right. And Fanta was a soda, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are Fantagraphics, yeah. But yes, the Den stuff that's being reprinted is now from Fantagore, and I think who's doing it? A colorist I've mentioned here before, who I follow on Facebook, who's got a Spanish name, Vil Garalo. What's his name? Paulo knows his name too, because I've said it. He's a colorist.
Villarrubia.
What was that?
Villarrubia.
Yes, I think. Yeah, the Jose Villarrubia. There we go. Because he's shown how he's colored it. How he's restored the coloring and kept it as faithful as possible. Graphic Man says, in the early 90s, we all bought stuff because of fears that we would regret not getting it. Yeah, it was a tricky time, and it makes you reevaluate being a collector. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Even if you buy collected editions, you know that 95% of the time you need to buy that collected edition now, because you have no idea if you're going to find it again. Even if it's somewhere at $1, you have no idea if you're going to find it on your own.
Right. And it's like I said, and it's weird because some stuff goes out of print and gets really cheap, and stuff goes out of print and gets really expensive. And it's like you never know which is going to be which. Like that Richard Corbin Creepy. Comic Crack says 1 volume of Den coming out, and then we get Dawnwood, which is a graphic novel he was working on before he died. First time we'll see print. Cool. I think the 4th volume of Den just came out. Dimwood? Okay. Not Dawnwood. Dimwood. Yeah, I think that last volume of Den is just out right now. It must have been out for Christmas or something, because I see it. I put it on my pull list on Amazon, so I can keep track of it. And has anyone ever read? This just popped onto my radar for some reason. maybe because I saw original art for sale. A series Chaikin did for Malibu in the 90s called The Power and the Glory. Power and Glory.
Power and Glory.
4 is out now, and 5 comes out early next year. Okay. I thought there were only 4 volumes of Dan It Said. Yeah. Has anybody ever seen that one?
I vaguely remember it.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't remember because I think I saw some original art that had nudity in it too. And I was like, there's nothing about adultness on the actual comic. I was like, huh. Oh, Eric P says, I have the Power and Glory trade, but have yet to read it. How many years has it been since you got the Power and Glory trade? There has been stuff that I have gotten, never read, and gave away recently. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to read this. Some of the stuff I was giving away to my students too, I read it 10 years ago, have no memory of it. And I was like, all right, I don't even remember it, so I'm giving it away.
Yeah, I'm looking at the covers, and it's like, oh, I remember seeing those books. I don't believe I picked any of them up.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't pay a lot of attention to Howard Chaykin once I really kind of stopped reading Marvel and DC, and that's generally what he did, even though that was Malibu. I didn't start following Chaykin again until like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago when he did Black Kiss 2 and a couple other things.
Well,
so there's a whole 20 years of Chaykin that I just missed.
But he was a little bit everywhere during the 90s, but everything he did was creator owned. So
and he did a lot of, he was in Hollywood those times too. So I think the stuff he did was kind of few and far between even. That's also why I lost track of him.
He did something called Midnight Man at Epic during the Heavy Hitters era. I don't recall if he did something at Vertigo. He did the first Black Kiss at Helix, I think.
No, the first Black Kiss was in the 80s. Helix may have reprinted it. I don't know. I forget who published Black Kiss, but it was the 80s, not the 90s. So I don't think Helix. Vortex.
Okay. And Power and Glory was around 93, 94.
What was it? What was?
Power and Glory was around 94, I think.
And Eric P says, I've been making a point to read from trades most evenings, so I will get to it at some point. All right. I did make it through both of the Omnis I got last couple of months, by the way. Oh, that's good. I made it through my Sigil Omni pretty quickly, but those cross-gen books read pretty quickly. I still haven't dove back into that Master of Kung Fu omnibus since last week's show. So those don't read nearly as quickly as cross-gen books.
So I'm looking at this, and it looks like Dynamite Entertainment is publishing the Power and Glory trade paperback. So the 120 pages. I don't see a date on here when they're publishing it or when they did publish it. Oh, it's been sold out, so I don't know when they came out with that one.
Huh. Yeah, the original issues are fairly cheap on eBay. I think that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And one thing I got for Christmas, this has been on my pull list since 2012, is Messages in a Bottle, comic book stories by Bernie Krigstein, who did a lot of work in the 50s. He was only, as he said, working in comics for just over a decade. And he did a lot of work for EC Comics. His most famous story is Master Race, the one that dealt with Nazis and the Holocaust, and who the Holocaust Museum in Poland and Auschwitz actually bought the original art for this for like $500,000, I think, a few years ago. And this is very famous for its form too. He really plays with. He was one of these guys who was a real innovator in comics and really played with the forms of comics before he got sick of it all and left. And I think he became a painter. He must have been successful because I don't think he had any other job but being a fine art painter. But this is one of those guys I've known about. I don't know if you know Bernie Krigstein's stuff very well.
The name is familiar.
Yeah, I've mentioned him here before. But it's like the reason I know Bernie Krigstein so well is because in the early 90s, our friend Edmar used to always ask John Romita for critiques of whatever work Ed was doing. You know, Edmar was I went to college with him. He's also a bullpenner with me, but he was always drawn and asking John Romita for critiques. And John Romita recommended he look at Bernie Krigstein because he said that Ed's drawing reminded him a bit of Krigstein. I think that was the first time I had heard of Bernie Krigstein. But Ed did such a deep dive into Bernie Krigstein, including buying a piece of original art. That's where I know all my, so I was always talking to Ed about Bernie Krigstein. That's why I know him so well. But this is a collection of his work from, put this out, Fantagraphics. And Fantagraphics put out an earlier hardcover, I forget, under a different name, of Krigstein's work too, in like 2004. That's been on my Amazon pull list for my wish list for like 20 years now. It's now out of print and like $130, but this one isn't. So I ended up getting this one for Christmas. So I can't wait to go through it and give it a read. Do you know Bernie Krigstein, Paulo?
I have a collection of pre-code crime stories. There's a story by Krigstein there. I think the first time I heard about him, I think Frank Miller mentioned in an interview. And so, those guys from the 50s tend to be forgotten more often than anyone from the 60s on, because the 50s are the era that nerds don't collect.
Yeah. There's pieces. Power and Glory Trade says mature readers on the cover, and just flipping through it, there isn't nudity, but it's very sexy. Okay. That reminds me, I'm going to go back here and get this. If you remember, I showed this a couple months ago. It's the John Romita tribute issue to, Alter Ego. But there was also an article in the back by someone I had never heard of. And I love, finding about artists I'd never heard of. You ever heard of The Life and Troubled Times of Faucet artist Phil Bard? Philbard? Never heard of him.
Familiar. Does it have any of his artwork on there?
Sure. Minuteman, I think, was his big series. There's Minuteman. Okay. He also did some stuff.
That is something that I really don't pay much attention to. So,
the one-man army. He studied Kirby. Sometimes he'd swipe them.
Yeah, some of them kind of look like early 40s.
There's Miss Scarlet and Pinky. And he did some Captain Marvel Jr. too, because he worked at Fawcett a lot.
No, I don't recognize any of it.
Yeah, I didn't know him at all either, but it was interesting reading his. But what's so strange to me is Minuteman artist Phil Bard. I didn't even notice there was a cover. What is this? FCA, Fawcett Collectors of America. That must be. What's so strange to me is there like the life and troubled times of Fawcett artist Phil Bard, and the whole reason they talk about it, for some reason, the writer here, PC Hammerlink, has a real problem with him being a communist. Now it's just like, Cold War's over.
Yeah.
You don't have to go so hard against some artist in the 30s who was trying to work for labor. Get his work for a better position in life rather than being taken advantage of. It's like I found that odd. And he also went over to the Spanish Civil War. He went over to try to help out during the Spanish Civil War, which was the fascists against I guess there were communists on the other side too, but that's where Hitler tried out his war machine too. I remember.
He had a piece of art exhibited at MoMA in 1956. Something called Man with Cigarette.
I think he did some work for the WPA too. The WPA was a Depression era government program that just paid artists to make art. So they'd just pay you money and you'd make art. It could have been one of those pieces. And then what did it say here? It was just an interesting little piece on, the Golden Age artist I'd never heard of. During the Spanish Civil War, nearly 4,000 men and women from 52 countries, including 2,800 Americans, volunteered to travel to Spain to join the International Brigade's fight against fascism. Phil Bard, they became known as the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. Phil Bard became part of this battalion. This says Normandy. While in Spain, Bard, only 24 years old at the time, was a figure of authority for the brigade as the commissar for their American base in the city of Albacete?
Yes, it's in the region of Murcia. So it's not quite in the center of the country, but it's 3/4 way between Madrid in the center and Valencia in the Mediterranean. Actually, there's a racetrack there, and I did a report from there once.
His position put him in charge of political education and organization. However, due to medical reasons, his mission with the brigade abruptly ended and returned to the United States March 19th, 1937, above the SS Manhattan. So I found it was just a nice, interesting little story about an artist I'd never heard of. Your mic is pretty quiet, Paulo.
No,
yeah,
my voice is totally shot.
His voice is totally shot too. Merry Christmas, Tit Goblin. But I always love finding little articles about, creators I've never heard of. That was one of them. John Romita, I've heard of.
Right.
Yeah, he did some things here and there, right?
Yep. Want to show us another comic, Wilson? What do you got there?
Sure. So continuing, picking up books, we have Superman issue number 21. It's like Superman and, I guess, Lois on the moon, maybe. But the rumblings of Doomsday is there.
Just looking at that right now, I'm not sure who did the art on that cover. But it's kind of in a style that now I think I'm going to call the J.C. Leyendecker influenced style. Because they've got these, I've noticed in a lot of them, that there's sort of these outlines of shapes of muscles, but the muscles are pretty angular.
Uh-huh.
And it just reminds me of how J.C., do you know who J.C. Leyendecker is, the illustrator from way back when, 100 years ago?
No, I would have to look him up.
Look him up. You'll like his stuff. Everybody does. But he does painting, and a lot of his paintings have, high cheekbones and angular muscles and stuff like that. And I think that is now what I'm going to call that style. Yeah, it didn't strike me until you holding up that cover right now. But I've seen that sort of style in a lot of comic books over the last 10, 12
I
years.
did many men's magazine images that were kind of like almost airbrush paintings. And
no, he was a rock star.
okay,
He was one of the he was before Norman Rockwell. He was in like the teens and beyond, and he did his most famous stuff is for Arrow Collar. There was something called the Arrow Collar Man, and that was his paintings. For those of you who don't know what arrow collars were, back before you could launder things easily, and there was so much soot in the air, white collar workers, their collar would have a collar over it, and you'd have to change it during the day. Your white collar for your white collar job would get so dirty from sweat and soot that you'd have to change your collar out during the day. And arrow collars were those collars that you changed. And he used to, and he turned out to be gay, which, if you look at his paintings, you're like, his dudes are so pretty. But of course, you couldn't say that back in those days. So his guys are like super handsome. And like back when illustrators were rock stars, because they were the primary image makers in society.
right.
He was one of those guys who was a rock star.
I do recognize the artwork.
Oh yeah.
That I'm seeing here on the Wikipedia page, because there was an artist around that time, and it was like I read an article not too long ago about how some gay artists would do these covers, and when you look at it, you realize the men were really just staring at each other, not the third female wheel that was there.
Right.
A lot of times that was the way to get away with showing a couple of gay people on a cover. But
he did all the big magazines.
And the moment I saw the Arrow Collar shirt ad, it's like, oh, okay, I see who you're talking about.
Right. J.C. Leyendecker. I think he lived over in Westchester. I think they all lived around New York City.
Mm-hmm.
All those big illustrators, except for the ones that moved to the West Coast. But I think that art style is a little J.C. Leyendecker in it that I've seen in comics, especially covers over the years. They're not painted like J.C.'s were, but they've got that angularness to them. So what was going on in that Superman one?
It's a very Archie like. They're sharing a Sunday, I'm guessing, on the moon.
Okay.
And
who
Doomsday
is that?
there. That's Doomsday.
Who is that with Superman?
I don't know. I'm going to guess it's Lois wearing a Superman outfit. Okay. She's being named Superwoman.
I think Lois has powers now.
Because I don't know who Superman's. I don't know which. Because is the Superman who's the older Superman who's married to Lois and has kids? Is he still around?
I don't know. I haven't caught up with the books.
If he's back on Earth, sure.
To know what's going on. They brought back Amethyst.
About 2 years ago, he was on Mongol's planet fighting as a gladiator or something.
Mongo's planet. Yeah, is that Absolute Superman or regular Superman? Because there's Absolute Superman now too, right?
Regular Superman. she's being called Superwoman, but at no point has he actually said her name. It's Lois.
Okay.
So in this particular All In, it's the DC's newest, I guess, universe. Oh, I haven't caught up with it. And then getting back to a regular book that's not too confusing, it's The Amazing Spider-Man with another costume.
Hold on, let me get this bigger. A new Spider-Man costume, huh?
So it has remnants of the Iron Spider, but it's red and gold, red and silver, and then he has a scarf because I guess it gets chilly in New York.
Yeah.
And it's called The Eight Deaths of Spider-Man is the current storyline that's going through. This is finishing off I believe it's finishing off a run, and there'll be a new set of artists and creators on it. Although this is not the usual group of creators that's been on the other Spider-Man books. So Justina Ireland, Gleb, 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 and I can't even pronounce that last name.
Nah.
Is it Russian? Melnikov? Menikov?
Melnikov. I think that's Bulgarian. But it's
Melnikov. Gleb
Melnikov.
Melnikov.
Gleb Melnikov.
Okay. So this is a different team from the last time I read the book. But there's a lot of people disliking this last year of Spider-Man stuff. And so I think they're prepping for a relaunch.
Here, that just reminded me the new costume and the scarf of who was it? Maybe it was the Spider clone. In the 90s, they redesigned Spider-Man's costume and gave him a hoodie. But it got laughed. What was that?
Scarlet Spider? Scarlet Spider. Yes.
But it got laughed at so hard that they gave him a torn off hoodie. So he no longer had the hoodie over his head. It was now had a ragged collar where the hoodie was torn off. And I find it funny that I know we behind the scenes laughed at it hysterically, Spider-Man wearing a hoodie. But nowadays, as of 10 years ago, there's 4 Spider-Man characters with hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody bats an eye.
Because those few kids that enjoyed the hoodie.
Yeah. They're more hoodies.
Became the writers and the artists later.
Yep. And hoodies are now I think they're more people wear hoodies than in 1995 or whenever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I found that funny now whenever, because I remember thinking, we just laughed at it. It was so absurd. Spider-Man with a hoodie. Mm-hmm. What's he doing? Why have a hoodie on? Especially since people wear hoodies to not be seen.
Yes.
If you're wearing a hoodie, it's because you don't want to be seen. You don't want to be noticed. You don't want to interact with anyone. In 1995 as well as now. So it's why would Spider-Man not want to? It was just strange. But nowadays, no one bats an eye.
He's a different Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man from the streets. He's there to protect the hood.
SBPT is here. Good evening to my 3 favorite historians of comics past. Good evening, SBPT. You now have 3 Supermen, the regular who never ages, his adoptive son that is gay, and the absolute one that is Brazilian. Ah, okay. So it's just Dragon Ball Z GT. So Superman's gay son, father, his father isn't around anymore. The old Superman whose son is gay isn't around anymore.
He is,
at least he doesn't have his own comic.
I think there was a switch there between post-Crisis Superman and post-New 52 Superman. because they wanted to have the underwear on the outside back, and John Kent is the real Superman's son.
Comic Crack is right. You got to turn your volume up, Paulo.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. How?
I think you can go into settings.
Yeah, but it doesn't mesh. Oh, yeah, I can't make.
Or does
do anything about it?
Does that microphone bend closer to your mouth?
Sort of.
Yeah, that's a little better right there. Even.
All right.
There you go. That's all needed.
The thing is, John Kent is bisexual, which in current comics means that he's gay.
Right. Right.
No I don't know who said it, but any bros who claim to be bisexual are straight, and any characters that claim to be bisexual are gay.
There are lots of strange rules out there. Oh, and let me show you, as a sidebar, I mentioned last week my $15 digital camera.
Oh, yeah.
I ordered off of eBay. I got it. It works pretty well, except for the saving of the photos. It'll save the first couple of photos, and it'll just go through the motions and won't actually save any of the photos.
Wow.
So I'd say the software writers of a $15 digital camera aren't the best. But other than that, it works perfectly fine. Other than not saving the photos. If you just want to take photos and it go through the motions, it's perfect. If you actually want to see the photos later, it's not into that.
So it's not much better than a toy camera you would get as a kid. And that you would click it, and it's like, oh, look, there's Spider-Man. Click. Oh, look, there's the Super Friends, you know?
Except it'll actually click, and you'll be able to see it on the little screen.
Right.
But other than that, no. Maybe 2 pictures it'll take, and then so just stop.
A step up from a ViewMaster viewer?
The world is your ViewMaster with it. Whatever you point it at, you look at. You're looking at the ViewMaster.
I used to have one of those crystal kaleidoscope thingies to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas when I was 12.
Huh.
Yeah, and 20 minutes after that, I never picked it up again.
Now, did you get one of the fancy ones or one of the toy ones?
Toy ones.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, it was every kid at some point would get a kaleidoscope. And it was, a cardboard tube that turned and, cheapo thing. But then somewhere in the 80s or 90s, all of a sudden these, fancy bespoke adult kaleidoscopes started being made that were, wooden, and they put all different things in there. And they're like much, much more upscale. But then they faded away too. I don't know. I haven't seen one in a while. ViewMasters are currently $20. That camera is a cheaper alternative. But I got this, and it does not come with an SD. For $14, you don't get an SD card. Shocking. So I pulled out. I got an SD card out of another device that I had, stuck it in here. Ran into the problem. I was like, why isn't it saving? It was like I said, it would save the first 2 pictures. Then I went to because sometimes some devices, the SD card can be too big for it. It's like this. So I looked and I had a 256 gig SD card, and sure enough, it said, and this one can only go up to 128 gigs. So it's like, all right. So I went and I spent $9 on a 128 gig SD card. So now I've got like a $25, $15 camera. And the same thing happened. I thought that would for sure clear up the saving pictures problem. It did not. So who knows what I'm going to do with it? But I was just so curious. Well, when I saw it for $50 or $100, I was curious because it's also, it's weird too. It's a 48 megapixel camera, but it for sure won't save a 48 megapixel picture. Turn it down to 44 megapixels, and it'll save the first couple. So I'm like, what? Maybe I'll try to turn it down to like 20 megapixels and see if it'll save. Maybe it will. But I've got my answer to what kind of how much quality could there possibly be in a $15 48 megapixel camera? Not a whole lot.
Doesn't seem like it.
Didn't seem likely, which is why I didn't want to spend $50 on them, because they'll sell you it for $50 too on Amazon and other places.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever owns a warehouse in Florida must have just got a few that fell off a truck. If I see something's coming out of a warehouse in Florida, I'm a little iffy.
Yeah. It's like, what are these doing here? It might have been like, oh, these were a mistake made a bunch of years ago. We didn't know what to do with them. We left them in the warehouse. And next thing you know it, someone opens it up. Hey, there are cameras here. Let's sell them.
Let's sell these
and
things.
They believe what's on the box.
Got lost in a shipment.
It reminds me of like when Marvel would do recall of books. They would be sent right back to Marvel, and then they would just be put into those giveaway boxes.
Yeah.
And then they would recircle again. It's like
PBT is confused at something, but I'm not sure what he's confused at. I've got dishpan hands, so I need my Camille Beckman French vanilla hand cream.
Okay.
I was washing dishes before I came on today. There we go. Now I've got my teenage hands back.
There you go. My sister also got me some moisturizer for Christmas. This citrus. It's an orange ginger smell to it that I really like. And it's one of those... she got it to me also. There's a version that's a bath, a body wash, and then the regular moisturizer, but they both are from the same place, and they have both the same smells and chemicals. And it's one of the few things that I can use that doesn't make my skin break out. So it's like I end up enjoying it because of that. So it's like, as I see you putting that on, oh yeah, I got new hand lotion too.
Eric P. asked you a question.
Wilson,
did you look at any books that you didn't pick up when you were at the shop? What'd you look at?
Because they're getting the new books next week, there was a lot of empty spots at the shop. So when I was looking, I usually do my quick look at what's going on at Marvel and DC. And Image and what have you. There were a few books that I was tempted with because they're reprinting those oversized Treasury editions of the Neil Adams Batman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a few of those and it's like, those are tempting.
I think only one of them is Neil Adams. I picked that one up. And the other one was a bunch of other Batman artists. I mean,
yeah, I didn't pick it up off the rack. It was like one of those things where it's like I saw them and it's like, oh, those are cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get them. I know there was something at DC that I looked at and was like, oh, that's interesting. I might give that a try, but I didn't pick it up. And I haven't tried it. I've been just looking at the covers, made me, again, look at it, but didn't take it off the rack, was those Rockefeller books from Image.
Oh, Rocket Fella, right?
Rocket Fella. Those, just the covers are intriguing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that looks interesting. I don't know if I'm going to grab it, but that looked interesting. And I've seen a couple of different covers and I've been liking the advertisements on social media for that
Okay.
book. So that
What's it
makes
about?
it attractive.
What's it
And
about?
they're like a family of inventors, if I remember correctly,
Oh, okay.
loosely based on the Rockefellers. So they each have
Mhm.
their Rockefeller connected name. Other than that, I don't really know much else about it.
Once again, the thing that kept me away from that book, because I've seen it on the shelf, is my bad reaction to pun names. I just don't like names that are puns. So I have to get over that in order to buy a book that has a pun for a name, which I've done before. But that always makes me go, oh. Let's see here. Ramos comments, have you read the latest controversy about Spider-Man? He said some kid wrote to the editor claiming he can write a better Spider-Man than anyone else in only 60 issues. What?
I don't usually read internet gossip about the comic books themselves because each person's going to love or hate comics. You know,
the editor's answer was go write some comics I care to read and then come back to us. Oh, I see. The controversy was the editor was being rude to some random fan.
If they were,
yeah, I find it funny how thin skin fans have now that they can. I mean, that one was probably in the comment. Now that they have like access to comic book creators, how thin a skin a lot of fans have when comic book creators are rude to them. Like, some people are just rude.
Yeah, basically, the one that gets published compared to how many are told to people. I've been at cons where you have people walk right up to you and say rude things.
Oh yeah.
Thinking that it's okay to say it. It's like, sometimes it's like, how do I react to that?
I've never read. Yeah, I've never read any of your comics because your art sucks.
I had people show up at conventions right after it opens up, and people be walking around, and you could tell who's never been to a con before because it looks like, oh, you're taking a shortcut through the convention center to get to the train station. and have come up, and it's like, they ask you about your book, and you say, oh, well, my friend writes them, I draw them, we put out these books, blah, 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 blah. The whole spiel. I used to work at Marvel. I now self-publish my books, blah, blah, blah. And the lady, not interested, would come out with like, and you make money from this? And it's like, no, why do you think I'm sitting here talking to you? Buy the book. Or I had other people, like I had this one lady who walked up and was like, what do you have here? It's like, well, self-publish our own comic books. And comic books. Todd McFarlane, right? It's like, yes. My brother read all the Todd McFarlane books. Cool. And then she's like, are you hiring? Well, no, there's only 2 of us, and we just put out this book. Oh, you should hire me. Okay, have you worked in comics before? What's the connection? No, but we're not looking for anybody. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm going to go do my own comic books. I'm going to do a Todd McFarlane. Okay. With blackjack and hookers? I don't know. What is it that you want? I can't hire you. I'm trying to sell the books. And it is just odd how people react. Other people are more like, oh, they will see a book and it's like, oh, this character has, those domino masks, right? Those go back how many years? Since the beginning of comics. Like, that's supposed to be Robin. Well, no, that character just has a domino mask. You better be careful. DC doesn't sue you because you just have no idea how anything works, do you? That character looks a little bit like this character. Okay? But you're not giving me information. And then you have the oh, I have a great idea for a comic.
Ah.
And those are the worst.
No, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was like, we had one guy come up to us and say, you should do a book about rocks. Excuse me? You should do a book about rocks. I happen to be a geologist, and I could tell you how you could do this book. So you want us to come up with a concept, create a comic book based on it, and then we pay you a fee for coming up with the idea? That's like, yeah, exactly. We pass. That's not something we're interested in. And you turn around and say, oh, so you don't want to make money? No, we don't. Not at all. We do this for the pleasure of hanging out with you at these conventions.
Also, we hate rocks.
I've got an idea for you. A guy with a microphone for an arm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
His arm can record stuff. Like,
and I found the best way to stop all of that is like, that's an interesting idea. Write it up. Because the moment you give them the assignment to do, they're gone. And you never hear from them again. You know?
Tit Goblin says, I noticed online people are posting finding new old stock comic packs at dollar stores. All the books are 90s titles like Ravage 2099 and Malibu type junk. Supply of that era will never run out. I've seen like somebody is publishing DC comics through the 2012 the New 52 at dollar stores. So it's like all the new printings of the New 52 first issues are showing up at dollar stores, in a pack 3 for $1 or whatever. I didn't know that there was old stock too. I've only seen the new printings of the New 52 from 12 years ago. It's like, whoa.
Occasionally, Five Below will have DC books. Like you get 5 books for $5, and they'll be packaged up, and it's all old stock. New old stock that just never been opened are being packed together into these packs. And there'll be like bag books from Harley Quinn when she had those special covers,
right?
Where you didn't know what you were getting until you opened the cover, which it could be a black and white version of the cover, a colored version of the color, or one that has an original piece of artwork drawn on it, type of thing, where they had packs like that for a while. So it's like a lot of that stock is sitting somewhere, and eventually they just repackaged them into the, I think Whitman did that for a long time, and we're kind of famous for that.
But they weren't. That was direct market stuff. That wasn't reprints.
No, so the thing that they had were reprints. Because
the New 52 stuff is new printings. Oh,
okay, so it's not like 52. A stack of old new stocks somewhere that they're just repackaging the old.
No, they said it's new printings. Weird.
Yeah, that's
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, like Whitman Whitman was part of the development of the direct market because they were buying stuff directly from Marvel and DC, new stuff, not reprints. It was both printed at the same time, so that they had something to do with the Marvel. Well, I think it was Marvel at first was like, they want to buy stuff. These stores want to. So that Whitman was part of the birth of the direct market.
Okay.
Let's see. Eric P. says, the latest Wonder Woman was a fun detective chimp as Columbo issue. And it looks like the same people who hate Tom King's Wonder Woman are complaining there isn't enough Wonder Woman in the issue. Isn't that like, there's always complaints,
Oh, yeah.
Some people just like to complain. Tit Goblin, my favorite criticism from people that have never professionally sold art is, you should have done this. Or no, what's worse is the people said, I could have done that. It's like, well, you didn't.
But you did it. That's the best comeback line is, but you did it. Like, oh, my son likes comics. You should hire him. He could probably draw like this. What are you telling me, lady?
Or one of my favorite of the optimists who say to you, you should draw the X-Men. Yes, I should draw the X-Men, but They're not hiring me to.
The worst thing an editor has said to me at Marvel, looking at my colored work, because I just got some color guides back. And it was like, oh, let me see them. And he's looking at it. And he's like, you should be on a monthly book.
Oh.
You can make that happen. Let's get started. What title do you want to put me on? Never put me on a title book. It's like, really?
No. or have it used to be when someone, oh, you work for Marvel? Do you draw Spider-Man? That was always their next question.
Yes.
Yes.
SBPT Tit Goblin Ravage 99, my guilty pleasure comic. The Joe Bennett run was worthy.
It was not. No.
Somebody's comic is. Every comic is somebody's favorite comic. You can't get past that. Someone
guilty or not.
Guilty, yeah.
There was a mutant bat that Ravage used as a mount for a couple of issues. It was
yeah.
weird.
I can picture that on a cover or something. And another thing that I got for Christmas is the collected edition of Godzilla War for Humanity.
Nice.
And this is the one you may remember. I bought like two. I got like issue 2 and issue 5 of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those 1 week because I just happened to see it 1 week because I liked the art in it, which is that doesn't quite open up like it should because it's a trade paperback. Let's see, where's a good Godzilla shot? Oh, that must have been one of the covers. And the artist is Jake Smith, written by Andrew McLean. It was a fun story too. It was, if I remember, the 2 out of the 5 parts that I read, there was this, crew of Godzilla fighters who were fighting Godzilla, and they were, fighting amongst themselves too about the best way to fight Godzilla. So it was there's a nice Godzilla cover right there. I think it's fighting Mothra too. Did you read that second issue you read the second issue of Godzilla?
I read the second issue, not the first issue. Yeah.
Still haven't read the first yet. I just reread it this morning and had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing a couple things I really didn't notice the first time through. It's amazing. Like that second time I read a comic before I put it away. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't remember that happening. And I read it 4 days ago. Now, here we go. SBPT says exactly. The mutant bat made it worthy.
My favorite bit of the 2099 universe was when Victor Von Doom thought it was a good idea to hire the Punisher as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, now that's exactly what happens in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
They were ahead of their time. Mm-hmm. Emperor Doom.
Stuff we laughed at in the 90s, like, Hoodie on Spider-Man and Punisher running S.H.I.E.L.D., they now do for serious.
Exactly. We saw the future coming. So, of course, Emperor Doom is going to have to make some sort of comeback. We made posters. We made campaign posters for those. Buttons. Something on One Nation Under Doom was the campaign for that one. That was a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, I also picked up the Marvel catalog. And who's on the cover?
Godzilla.
So for the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, he's going to be fighting the Marvel Universe. So there's the poster cover. And so it's going to be a 6-issue series. And the first people he's going to fight is going to be the Fantastic Four. And there's a new Herald of Galactus, which is King Ghidorah. And so they attack Earth. and the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four are supposed to basically get Godzilla to help them out in that battle. So
No.
there's going to be, according to this, a 6-issue series of one-shots. And so far, the one that I can confirm is Godzilla versus Fantastic Four, because they haven't shown any other covers for this particular series in the preview.
Now, here's a question. Is King Ghidorah who we used to call Ghidra back in the day? Because I noticed the pronunciation of a lot of monsters has changed over the years.
Yes. So it's been Ghidra, King Ghidorah, Monster Zero are the names that it has.
Okay.
And then I think what it is that when we were younger, it was pronounced one way because that's how the movies we were watching.
They Americanized all the names.
Right. So they Americanized the names. So it would be Ghidorah. And then you have people who watched the original Japanese. And then it was like, oh, so the original is Ghidra, but it's Ghidorah. But again, it's like each of the names is just slightly different here.
Right.
You know, Godzilla's real name is actually Gojira.
Right.
And then, but in English, it's pronounced Godzilla. So you have all those little nuances.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's at least 3 or 4 ways to pronounce Angulus. So I don't know. You know, each one. I
just have noticed, like all those Japanese giant monsters, their name pronunciation has changed over the decades. As we got more exposed to the actual Japanese pronunciations.
Right. So it got to the point where it's like more people are pronouncing it what it was in Japanese.
Right.
And then over in Japan, they're starting to call them what the Americans are calling them. So they see
the Americanized versions and call them that. I can remember one time in I think it was probably the late 90s. My friends Ed Murr and I were giving a lecture on comics at a museum in Brooklyn. And it was a lecture. I think it was a lecture about Japanese influence on American comics. I think it was, or American influence on Japanese. A lot of Japanese comics were in it, and one of the 2 people in charge, one was a American, and the other was a woman she was Japanese, straight from Japan. And she kept asking Ed and I, she kept being confused why Ed and I were calling Japanese comics manga.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, all that means is comics. And I'm like, yes, that's what, but here we specifically call Japanese comics manga. And then she was like, what? But that just means comics. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, but to us it means Japanese comics.
Yeah, it basically becomes a format. And that's the type of comic it is. That yes, manga is comics, but
it literally means comics.
Literally specific, yes.
But to us, it means Japanese comics. Like I said, often the format too. The manga format is another thing it means. But it was funny. She was just so confused by that. She's like, what? Why do you call comics manga? It's the same word. I'm like, yeah, well, that's what we call them.
And when I was younger, anime wasn't called anime. It was Japanimation. It was Japanimation for a while.
Right. I didn't hear anime for many years.
And then it became anime.
Yeah, all through the late 80s and early 90s, it was Japanimation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was called. And SBPT says, yes, Warren Ellis at his prime. 2099 Apocalypse was my favorite. How to kill all Marvel heroes in a single issue.
Well, since SBPT he's here, he sent me this awesome act of kindness, which I haven't opened yet.
So let's see what's in it.
Yes, everybody gets to see it.
Let's go big with you. So you can show us what's in the bag.
What's in the bag? Okay, back to me so everyone can see first. Okay. A French comic about the Avengers.
Avengers l'Origine.
Les Origines.
Les Origines.
Nice.
That's a
Alex Ross.
Alex Ross Hulk. There's the word.
Yes.
There's the name my brain was trying to remember.
Nice. And it's a trade paperback, so I guess it's about 128 pages. Nice. All right. The Panini does great stuff in Europe.
Okay.
With the collected editions. Okay, let's see what this one is. Ooh, shiny. I remember 300.
Issue 300. I held the original art to that issue.
Nice. The foil cover.
Who drew it?
Tom Morgan.
Okay.
Looks like it, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's signed here.
Tom
See
Morgan.
the stylized TM.
Yep.
Ooh, and celebrating Marvel's 85 years with the X-Men and the Avengers. And it's a logoless cover.
Uh-huh.
And it's got that Punk Spider-Man.
Is that from the X-Men Avengers series?
I'm not sure. With Punk Spider-Man, I'm not really sure. Spider-Kid's in there as well, so see.
It's hard to see. Oh, yeah, that is the Punk Spider-Man. That Joe Quesada cover? It's hard to tell.
And 2023. I can't tell.
No, so it wasn't. X-Men Avengers was like a decade ago, right?
Yeah. All right, this is awesome. Thanks, man.
Very cool.
Wasn't really expecting something like this.
Nice selection.
A trade paperback and some individual issues. I showed you this. I don't think I showed. I got a few new sketchbooks for Christmas too. This is the which is funny. It's got so many names on it. Strathmore Visual Journal. This is multimedia paper, which means it's a little thicker than normal. And this is the one I've been making, because it's this thick paper, I've been making textures on it that I then scan in and use digitally in different pieces of art. So I'm going to be making more sketches in this. But I don't even know what languages these are in. We've got, hold on, let me show you. See if Paulo recognizes the words for drawing.
Drawing medium tooth.
Dessin and dibujo.
Yeah, it's French and Spanish.
French and Spanish. Oh, yeah, made in USA.
Dessin, grand moyen.
Dibujo.
Dibujo.
It's dibujo, right?
Dibujo.
Dibujo. Yeah. I would say debuja. Like talking to family members, what I do is like I draw comics and debuja, libros cómico. It's not the only way I'm able to get anything that's even remotely could get across the language.
I got this one.
A generic term for comics in Spanish is tebeos, because there was a Spanish magazine called TBO back in the day. So it kind of became the standard name. In Brazil, the same thing happened. There was a comic in the 1940s called GB, so every comic became GB as a slang word.
You got a happy birthday from SBP. Cool. Happy 44th, kid. 45th. I can read. Happy 45th, kid. Let's see. Tit Goblin says, Graphic Means, A History of Graphic Design Production is a new documentary I'm watching after this. It's the history of analog paste up and production before digital. Looks interesting. I've been reading, I haven't gotten back to it a while since I was reading it on the train a little bit. I got the digital version of a Kickstarter of the history of comic book printing, which has been pretty interesting so far. Of course, starts with regular printing, printing in the 1800s that led up to the invention of comics. And they've been going through, it's pretty interesting if you're into that stuff. SBPT says it's an anthology with some cool creators at Marvel and a special Alan Davis short Excalibur story.
The French Marvel. Okay. Yeah. The French Avengers. All right.
Very cool. The French Avengers.
Yeah, because just because it's an Avengers comic, it doesn't mean that it can't have other completely unrelated characters in there. I mean, my favorite one was when the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones was a backup in Captain America. Why? Why not?
Pulp stories, 1940s. It almost fits.
Yeah, but
Power Man.
Yeah, but it's Power Man and Luke Cage.
Yeah, I can't help you with that one.
Rom the Space Knight started in the Incredible Hulk, and then it moved to X-Men. Fantastic Four started in Incredible Hulk, then moved to Spider-Man, then moved to Super Adventures, then moved back to Spider-Man.
Huh. Random
that's why I never saw Fantastic Four covers because it was the backup title.
Yeah.
Want to show us another comic, Wilson? What do you got?
Sure. So I have Spider-Boy issue 14, which I believe may be my last issue because I did pull it off the.
That's the one that's off your pull list now, and you put new stuff on.
Yeah, pulling off. It's not a bad book, but it's just not holding me. The art is good. But again,
Wilson was telling me before the show, Midtown Comics likes you to keep 10 comics on your pull list. And I think you dropped down to 9 because a series ended. So he was reevaluating his pull list and putting new things on and taking some things off.
Yeah, so I took
Spider-Boys.
So I took off Spider-Boy. I took off the Thundercats Chitara solo book.
Mm-hmm.
I took those 2 off. Then one of the books that I had on there that automatically was taken off because there are no more of those issues because that was I think 6 or 8 issue miniseries that was going on. So I was like, okay, I need to find a couple of books to put on there. And so I ended up taking off Spider-Boy, Chitara. The one that was taken off automatically was Godzilla versus the DC Universe. So those issues ended because that was the Godzilla versus Kong versus DC Universe miniseries.
Did you replace it with the Godzilla versus Marvel Universe?
Did
you replace it with Godzilla versus the Marvel Universe?
I didn't, only because I didn't see the book until today. Okay. Online, it had no information on there. I attempted to find the Godzilla books that were being put out, but it's those Godzilla Rivals was the only one that I could put on there because those are one shots. But the Godzilla rival title seems to be ongoing, and it just changes which is the rival. But they're each #1 issues. So that's how they but it was available for subscription. So I put it on there. So I put that one on there. I put Transformers on there, and I put that new Absolute Batman title on there to see how that is. And then from the shelf, I pulled...
Yeah, it might be also because
Absolute Batman.
Like my LCS can't, they can't put new books into their system until it comes out in previews, and it's showing up in their computer system.
Yeah, so what I'll probably do now that I have the catalog, and these books aren't coming out until March. So this is January for March. And the only book that's on there is the Fantastic Four book. So I'm thinking of ordering the poster because it's $6.99. So I was like, that'll be kind of cool. So this the wraparound variant cover by Linnell Francis Yu. So that's the poster image, but it's also one of the covers. And the Fantastic Four one, I just need the regular cover. I don't need the, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 posters, not including the foil. So there are 9 posters being done for this first issue. I don't need them all. I'm sure they'll look pretty. because you got the regular poster is Adam Kubert, which is this one here.
You mean
But
cover?
they also
I
have
just dropped out. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
I'm back, I think. Do you mean posters or covers?
There is a poster being made by Leinil Francis Yu, but it's also being used as so it's not only the poster, but it's going to be a wraparound cover. So it's one of the covers.
Okay, I just thought you said there were 9 posters coming out.
No, there are 9 covers.
Okay,
I might
just want to make sure.
So there are 9 covers, and this is the Adam Kubert cover. And then the other cover artist is Lee Gabbert, Leinil Francis Yu, a monster homage cover by Nick Bradshaw, a variant cover by Peach Momoko, a version variant cover, so it's going to be that same cover. King of the Monsters homage variant cover by TBA, so I guess they didn't talk somebody into it. A variant cover by Scotty Young, and then a foil variant cover by Mark Bagley. So it's like all great artists, but I just need the one cover and I'm good because I don't need to get 9 covers.
Eric P. advises us to Google Godzilla versus Fantastic Four #1 Lee Gabbett versus War.
Yeah, so that's the one that's the second variant cover.
Okay.
On it. But this
we got more explanations about Paulo's books. Sorry, the anthology is the 85th comic. The Avengers is Jack Kirby in French. It is a new collection I found at a stationer's in Lisbon. The following issues are Byrne, Buscema, and Hickman. By the following. Okay.
Oh, that's amazing. Here's the thing: Marvel doesn't do this in the United States, but the license holder in France does.
No.
They're putting out a lot more. They're doing a lot more for Marvel outside North America than Marvel are doing for their own inside North America. Yeah.
So that Lee Gabbert cover is actually a lot of fun. It is a Godzilla versus the Thing, which is funny because Godzilla versus the Thing is the Americanized version of the movie Godzilla versus Mothra. Because back then they changed Mothra's name to the Thing for the American release, and it's basically a fighter's poster, a boxing poster of Godzilla and the Thing going at each other. One will fall. Fantastic Four, clobbering time. Godzilla versus the Thing. Now I'm going to have to get that cover because of the connection of Godzilla versus the Thing original movie, which, by the way, as a Christmas gift from the Secret Santa, I got a NECA Godzilla versus Mothra action figure that comes in this box, beautiful box that has the original artwork for the movie posters in Japanese. And here's what Godzilla looks like. This is all shiny, so it's hard to show it. So maybe we'll pop them open and show it to you that way. But again, I had no intentions of getting any of the other covers until I saw that cover, and there's a connection with the old movies, and that makes it fun. And it's Godzilla, so you could talk.
Well, Missing Mars says, "Good evening, everybody. Variant covers have gotten way out of control. Unless it's Godzilla fighting the Thing, then it's just the right amount."
Exactly, because as a collector, you curate your collection to your own taste, and sometimes you end up getting extra covers, as silly as it sounds, because it's so much silliness and fun. Here's what it looks like.
Let's see.
And he comes with, I have to attach his tail, and then he also comes with atomic breath, as these NECA figures do. So it's a nice addition to the collection. And
I can remember
that we have the Godzilla versus the Thing cover thing. So
once, I don't know, must be 15 years ago now, our friend Bunch, who's a big Godzilla head, bought like at a con. He's got a million Godzilla things, and he bought at a con some like super movie accurate original Godzilla for like, I don't know, a couple $100. It was expensive, and he's like, "This is the last Godzilla toy I'll ever need. I'm telling you that right now. If I get this one, the last Godzilla toy I'll ever need." So now every time he buys a Godzilla toy, I remind him of that, because it was obviously not the last Godzilla toy he'd ever need, because he's got others after that.
Exactly. Sometimes you think, oh, this is the definite one. This is the perfect one. But it's like, but he has so many different looks in so many different movies. Again, you could justify yourself into getting them from this scale or from this company. It gets crazy.
Let's see. Tit Goblin has a question for us. The last art sale I was part of, I was asked what percentage of art I sell am I happy with. My answer was a bit confusing to the person. I said everything I'm selling I'm happy with, because quality control. If I'm not happy with it, I don't sell it. But I'm only pleased with about 1 out of 4 pieces. I'm happy with everything I send out, but there are only some that please me. What level of ratings do you guys put on your own art? Of stuff I'm generally happy with my art. I'm old enough and secure enough to not worry about it too much. I've been doing this for a long, long time. I've made a lot of art. Some stuff I like better than others, but what I've had to learn is that some piece I might make that isn't necessarily my favorite and might not make me happy can make somebody else happy. And
I guess the question for people who do commercial art is,
right,
you're behind schedule. Is it good enough?
Yeah, that's another thing. If you're being paid for your work, you do enough. You can't put $1,000 worth of work into a $10 piece.
Right.
So that's another thing. But yeah, I'm generally happy with most of it. But like it took me a long time to be happy with myself. It took a lot of work. And it actually took me never put down your own work in public. Maybe you're talking to your art friends, whatever. But if someone comes up to you and is excited about a piece of yours, you don't rain on their parade. Because a lot of artists do, that's not my favorite. I don't like that one. And you make the person feel stupid for liking it. Don't ever do that.
Yeah, don't point out that it's like, oh, I didn't like the way I drew the belt on this, and this foot is wrong. But no, they're not seeing it. They're not seeing that.
If they're happy with it, let them be happy with it. But yeah, I don't. If I was putting stuff in a sale, I would probably like all the stuff I was putting in a sale. You know, if they were like, can we have 10 of your pieces to put in a sale? I wouldn't put. Maybe I wouldn't put the 10 pieces I like best, but I wouldn't put the 10 pieces I like worst either. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've had my artwork in some places for sale. Sometimes they sell, sometimes they don't. As far as like judging my art, I've seen stuff that I've drawn sell for crazy amount of money that I never saw that money. But it was wild that it was like, oh, my art sold that way when we did back when we did those first sketchograph cards. Mm-hmm. And those became really popular. And you knew how those were. We were drawing those overnight over the weekend as quickly as possible because they needed them rushed. You know, some of us never even did them in color because there was no time.
Right.
They were supposed to be sketches, quick 5-minute sketch. And so, you know, I penciled and I inked them and send them on their merry little way. And a few years later, a few of them turned up on eBay. And, you know, I saw an Iron Man one that was, you know, that's not a great piece of artwork. It looks like a 5-minute sketch because it was going for over $300, and I'm like,
Whoa.
who's paying that? And why can't I get that kind of money? So I would put up my sketch cards. Nice.
This is from the very first batch. This is what wrecked everybody, because like there was in the original sketch cards. Let's see what is there a year on this. There must be somewhere, but I don't know. 98.
98.
There we go, big and bold. The original idea they had for the sketch card was to get like John Romita and Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane who do an original sketch for him. But then the budget was paying $2 a card. I think that was the original one, $2 a card. And so they couldn't get them. So they came down into the bullpen and like, anybody want to draw cards? We need them tomorrow. $2 a card.
Exactly.
It may have been a week everybody had to do them. And there became this sort of race to the bottom. Because when you're getting paid $2 a card, you can't spend 10 minutes on a card. That's what, $12 an hour? I mean, and that's a lot of time to spend on a card, 10 minutes. So everybody was trying to figure out the least amount of time they could spend on a card. And Bunch won the contest with, I think he did 200 of these AIM agents. And the guy who was running the program was just like, that's it. No more. We're done. That kind of ended the gravy. He just, and these actually became infamous because there'd be one sketch card, a box of cards, which cost like $60 to get the whole box. And so imagine you spend $60, $80, whatever it was at the time, on a box of cards because you've been told that you might get a John Romita card, and you get an AIM agent. And when I bought this off of eBay in like 2000, they're like, oh, here's another one of the infamous Stan Bunch AIM agents. I was like, I gotta have it.
Yeah. And it was just, again, one of those funny things where it was like, the other thing is that you had some artists doing really good renderings on it, penciling, coloring it, inking it. Mark Texiera was painting them.
They weren't making any money.
But they would get to this. Rumor has it, the painted stuff would get to the Skybox office, and they never left them. They never got put into the people over there end up keeping those, the big name ones from themselves. And
was anyone dumb? Was anyone dumb enough to try to do Jack of Hearts?
No, I remember before the AIM agent one.
I think I did.
Oh,
hold on.
I remember Dave.
Hold on.
Dave Sharp thought he was winning the race to the bottom by drawing Mysterio. But he was giving it some depth, and I think he even occasionally put some color in one or two because he was feeling guilty. But then Bunch came in with a stack of 200 AIM agents. Eric P. says, somebody needs to do a mini comic of that story.
See, the other problem, too, is I didn't keep many copies of them because it was just too quick to photocopy them. So I only kept a handful of photocopies.
Oh, yeah.
And then whatever I found off the internet.
Right. No one kept it. That was before the age where everybody had scanners. And
yeah. So I would bring them into Marvel and just make Xerox copies.
Right.
Of like 12 of them. And so I may have drawn Jack of Hearts. But let me see if I can.
You have a vague memory of it.
I have a vague memory of
it. For the eye. No one, I think, would draw the whole costume. That'd be nuts.
No, it would mainly be like headshots. I was doing just a bunch of headshots and maybe upper body. And one or two characters, I would do the full body. But I may have done. But I'm not finding it. So maybe I didn't. But I definitely did like the Kingpin and Spider-Man and a lot of Reed Richards from Fantastic Four, because it was just the upper body and just you stretched everything off the panel and you were done. I was very much John Burning those.
Missing Mars says, I've seen variant covers number close to 20 for a single issue. That's nothing. They go up into the hundreds now for like Star Wars #1. I think had the most at like 100. I've seen crazy amounts. Like I said, I always say I can remember when in the 90s when Gen 13, number 13 came out with 13 covers, and we thought that was the most outrageous thing we'd ever seen. Not anymore.
Exactly. It's just, you have people that don't even care about the book. They just want, that art. They want the
it's trading cards. Some people collect comics like trading cards these days. That's okay. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I certainly don't have to have every cover. Damian Dyer says variants are okay, but what happens when you don't like the original plus the variants? Oops. I mean, the variants that are like more expensive, I'm never going to buy anyway. It's like if there's like 3 covers that are all cover price, I'll just pick the one I want and get it. But I'm not like chasing after those expensive variants.
Exactly. It's like, I get
500 AIM agents can't be wrong.
The reason why I get this variant is because we know Chris.
Right.
So that's the novelty, because I'm not collecting the X-Men books anyway. Right. And if I'm going to pick a book, I'm going to pick a Gia Russo cover anyhow.
Yeah, may as well collect Chris's.
Yeah.
Tit Goblin says, I notice all my stuff sells, but it depends on where it goes and the time frame. Ours is a slow burn sale because it needs to wait for the person that wants it. Could be the first day or 2 years later. Yeah. I think Tit Goblin works a lot of art fairs and things. So he's got to bring a variety of stuff there.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. If you're doing sketches, like I do buy blank sketch covers, go to comic convention, so I'm going to draw on the covers. And it's like, you don't know what's going to sell. Everyone's character is their favorite character. I tend to draw characters that I like to draw, and that's easy for me to draw. That doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a fan for that particular character. So sometimes you have to draw whoever might be popular that year. I drew a lot of Harlequins one year because that was the big thing in movies and TVs.
SBPT says your Marvel bullpen stories deserve a Disney Plus animated series. What if we told the behind-the-scenes stories out loud?
Like Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yeah.
There we go.
But what stories are we allowed to tell would be the other thing, too. I believe I wasn't there for it, but I believe someone bought brownies that they probably shouldn't have bought.
The Pope of Pot used to deliver to the bullpen.
Mm-hmm. Try selling the story to a Romanian or a Slovakian production company.
So I was gonna say I found my list of a few that I found online.
Yeah.
So of Iron Man, Medusa, Cloak and Dagger, Black Panther, Kingpin, Doctor Doom, Spider-Man, the Sphinx. Who wants that?
The who?
The Sphinx.
Oh, the Sphinx. Okay.
Yeah. $61.33 is what it sold for.
Wow.
Really?
Moon Knight, Black Panther. So the highest one that sold was Cloak and Dagger for $323.
Wow.
And that was in 2006.
You wish you could get that.
I do. And then now when I do sketch cards, I now try to put them at crazy prices because sometimes crazy shows up and knocks on the door.
I haven't looked in a little while, but Fred Hembeck's sketch cards have gone up in price a bit. I was glad to see the stuff he was getting for them. I mean, because I once again got the AIM agent Fred Hembeck card just because to go with my other AIM agent. But when I got one of this 2013, an AIM agent went for, I don't know, $10. And I saw his other cards going for $10, $20. But I saw a lot of them up around $50, $60. 80s
Oh,
when he was
okay.
doing some of the more popular characters. I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for him, I bought. He had because he was at a con selling cards, and I bought, I believe, his clown character. I don't know if Obnoxious the Clown is his, but there was a clown character that he drew that I bought directly from him, and I don't think I paid more than $20 for it. I wonder if I have it right here.
Yeah, who was it? Oh, it was Chris Cooper, who was on Facebook asking people for a memory of New York City that made them. That was just like a fond memory they had. That you're like, oh, when you think of your youth in New York City, this is a memory that comes to mind that makes you happy. And mine was one random Halloween. I can't remember which one. It was after work at Marvel, and we were all walking down to some hangout spot that I think Dave Sharp replied he thinks it was Otto's Shrunken Head, which I don't even remember what place we were going to. But as we were walking down, all in our Halloween costumes, we started singing the theme song to the 60s Thor cartoon at the top of our lungs. Well, of course, with Steve Geiger dressed as Thor, leading us with his hammer. I'm like, yeah, that was one of my fond memories of New York City in my youth. Who else did AIM agent cards? I think Bunch was the only one who did them in that original set. I don't know who else has done them over the years. SBPT, there's a new Jim Lee variant of Batman that you need to buy 1,000 comics to get that one. Is it inked in gold? I believe he did a 5,000 to 1 comic too. But like, I think it was, those do sell sometimes. And I've told this story before. I think it was Spider-Man 600, maybe it was. There was 1 in 1,000 Spider-Man 600s too. And my LCS owner will pre-sell those on eBay. He'll put an auction up on eBay for however much it costs to get one, $2,000. And he's like, it's not, this is a pre-sale, it's not sold yet. You buy it, I order it and send it to you. And I think he pre-sold 3 of those Spider-Man 1 in 1,000 comics for, I don't know, $2,000 or whatever they cost for 1,000 comics. So he had, and he always like, sometimes people buy those in the store. They're like 1 in 25s or the 1 in 30s. And he's always like, do you want the 25 comics? The person's always like, no. So like that Spider-Man 600, he ended up with like 3,000 extra copies of Spider-Man 600 that he could never sell. I think he eventually sold them to one of those packagers who do mystery boxes for like pennies on the dollar, because he can, he can't sell 3. The store probably sold 50 copies of Spider-Man 600, so he can't sell an extra 3,000.
Yeah, to me, if you have multiple stores, maybe.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's no way. Eric P says, speaking of the 60s Thor themed song, this week's Marvel books had an ad for Disney Music, who appears to have reissued those 60 theme songs on 7-inch records. Oh, wow. They'll have to do a music chip version where you open up the comic and it plays the theme song, like a greeting card.
Well, they have the technology. They did those Godzilla covers. So in 2011, I did a bunch of sketch cards for Upper Deck called Marvel Beginnings, and I did put a Buckethead in that. I don't know if I could share if we have the ability to share.
Just go down to present. And you should be able to share your screen or share your tab or share your whatever you got.
Okay, so let me Share screen. Okay.
And then I put it in. And Eric P says, speaking of, oh, that's the reissues. Okay, we just saw that one. All right, Batman 158, aka Batman 1000, wraparound and signed by him and Loeb. Well, there was one, I think the 1 in 5,000 was like a sketch cover by Jim Lee. I forget which Batman it was for, but that was the, which would, I think it cost like 10,000 retail or something like that.
See if that. Oh, now I got to give it permissions.
Ah, that's right. You have to give it permission. You might have to quit out of Chrome to give it permission and come back on. That's a Mac security thing.
Right. Okay. So,
like I said, I think you have to quit out of Chrome in order to do it. And then it won't give it permission with Chrome up and running. Or whatever browser you're in. I just happen to be in Chrome.
Okay, I am too. So I'll be right back.
You'll be right back.
After these messages.
They don't want people being able to take over your computer. So you have to give Chrome permission to take over your computer and share it at the screen. And they don't want you to be able to do that with Chrome running, because then somebody might be able to weave their way in there and tell them to give you permission to take over your computer.
This is why I don't use Chrome, and I don't understand why anybody does.
That's in the Mac operating system. It has nothing to do with Chrome. Any application that is going to take over your computer, like you have to do to share a screen, you have to quit out of that and then authorize it and then open it up again. Because they don't want somebody to be able to, put a Trojan horse in a program.
And they say Macs can't get taken over.
Yeah. SBP. Are there any comic book stores in the U.S. selling 1,000 Batman comics a month? Maybe Mile High Comics. Maybe one of these like services that sell. I don't know how big that. Like maybe mycomicshop.com could, because they've got a pretty good back issue service. Texas, Lone Star Comics. Maybe Midtown Comics in Manhattan. But I'm not sure. Jared, did you try out your new paint markers? I like that brand, but it's not as great as people give it credit for. I think it's the leader of the industry, but it's got good distribution in wholesale. I haven't tried them out yet. Here they are here. Haven't had a chance. Been too busy doing Christmas stuff. But these are the Posca markers. I think a lot of people do graffiti with them too, because they've got some. These ones aren't particularly big, but they've got some big ones that I've seen people do graffiti with. No, I haven't tried them out yet. But you're right. I've got a lot of cheapo paint markers that work pretty well, and these are on the more expensive side. So we'll have to see if they're any good or not. Let's see. Eric P. I bet there's a shop in LA or New York City that has 1K people getting Batman monthly. Yeah, that's what I think it would have. It'd have to either be mail order or get a lot of foot traffic in the big cities. Like I said, Midtown Comics has 2 locations in Manhattan too, so maybe they could between their 2 locations, I would bet they have 1,000 people. Yeah, it might be a big Chicago store as well. Could be. But like my local comic shop is small, and they probably will sell 50 Batman copies a month. I would guess. That I think their best-selling comics, like for a special issue, are maybe around 100. So I don't even know what the big stores are. Oh, there's Ramos Comics back. We'll add him to the stage.
I kept hitting the wrong link, I was trying to link into a YouTube show that I was on Sunday. I was like, where is everybody? And I realized I'm clicking on the wrong link. All right, let's try it again, this time without the oops.
SBPT says nowadays in Portugal, selling 1,000 copies of a graphic novel is a bestseller.
Yep.
What's the population of Portugal again? Portugal?
10 million.
10 million. Yeah, so it's not a huge country. I mean, 10 million is the population of New York City. So
yeah, the thing is, reading is a niche hobby.
Yeah,
reading comics is a niche within a niche.
Right, exactly. I hear you. Newbury Comics in Boston area might also have that many people getting Batman monthly from. We were just wondering if there's any store that sells 1,000 copies of Batman a month. There would have to be a big city store like Midtown.
Yeah, and since Midtown has 3 stores plus the warehouse, it makes sense to buy it on one account and then be able to sell it, I would guess.
Ah, there's our AIM agent.
So this is a series called Marvel Beginnings, and they kind of gave us carte blanche to do anything. So I was like, all right, let me draw the characters that were around when I began reading comics. And
is that the Wrecker in the bottom left?
Yes, from the Wrecking Crew. Because Secret Wars. So all the characters
he was in Secret Wars
were in the Secret War. They were in the Secret Wars costumes.
Ah.
And so, after a while, I was trying to draw characters that I haven't already drawn already. So it was like, okay, so let me do one of each from Secret Wars. And then after that, it's like, oh, I need to start doing other characters. And I was like, for fun, it was like, let me throw in that Buckethead in there.
Goblin really likes your Nightcrawler.
Oh, thank you.
I like your Spider-Man. Who is the woman with the W?
That was the Wasp. In Secret Wars, she had short hair.
Ah, okay. She's reminded me of I think the Wonder Man had a costume once with a W on his chest.
Very well could have.
Is that Spawn top right? Isn't that Spider-Man 2099?
Spider-Man 2099. These are all Marvel characters in this particular one.
Spidey 2099. Who's the Johnny Blaze looking guy in the bottom right?
Bottom right?
Next to Wolverine and the Wrecker.
Oh, that's Magneto without his helmet.
Ah, no wonder I don't recognize him.
Yeah. You could only tell by
the collar,
the cape, and then the collar itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not recognize the collar and cape.
Yeah.
I was like, I bet those are hints, but I don't get them.
But I'm doing a quick check to see if Jacks of Hearts is in any of them. I doubt it.
I like your AIM agent. We can see a hint of his eyes and a shiny helmet.
Okay. So no, I have no Jack of Hearts in it. In the other. Oh, and I also have a color one from the AIM agent as well. Funny enough.
I think you have to reshare to show them to us. Yeah. Let's see. Titcom says, like the angle Moon Knight is looking off to. For an all blacked out face, the angle is hard to get right. You nailed it. Cool. SBPT says, even though a recent study granted that 30% of all readers in Portugal read comics in 2024, it's still a niche of a niche. Jared, are you going to be on eBay later looking for that AIM card? Yeah. I'll be looking for AIM cards in general now. I haven't looked in a long time.
Yeah, in Portugal, only nerds read. Real men don't read.
I'm sure it's like that. Matter of fact, it was our friend Bunch once again, who's this AIM agent. He was a magnet for weirdos, especially on the subway. And there's one story he always tells about he was on because he was usually reading a book on the subway, and one guy sitting across from him with his girlfriend, looks over at his looks at Bunch, looks over at his girlfriend and goes, "At least I don't read." There's a brag for you.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Bunch has so many Subway stories. He was just such a weirdo magnet. There's a color aim agent.
Yeah. So these are the APs, the artist proofs. So these are the ones that we get to keep for ourselves.
Okay.
And then sell them for whatever we can get for. And so in the set, we're just characters that I liked because I figured, oh, if I don't sell any of them, I'm going to keep them. I might as well keep the ones I like. And again, just part of the funniness of the AIM Buckethead was like, I need to put that on there as well. And there's the colored one.
Have you sold these? Or
funny story about these. All these cards got rejected.
Okay.
So I did them for Upper Deck. Upper Deck loved them, and they were fine with them. They sent them over to Marvel, and somebody at Marvel rejected them. Okay. And then told Upper Deck, don't hire this guy on Marvel stuff anymore.
Oh.
So that guy was Jesse Falcon,
who
I thought I had a really good relationship with at Marvel.
Right.
And, it was like, but I never got to speak to him afterwards. Hey,
like, what did I do to you?
What did I do wrong? I've been doing sketch cards since 98. Why is there a problem today or now? Maybe he was in a bad mood or something. So Upper Deck paid me for the project.
Right.
Because they were like, there was nothing wrong with your cards. We don't know why. And it's like, all right. So I didn't get to keep these. But I redrew them later on my own stock. I redrew the cards themselves.
Okay.
And it was like, because I won't let the artwork go to waste. I'll just redraw them. And,
was Jesse Falcon on the Toy Biz side of Marvel?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a Toy Biz guy who eventually got into a position at Marvel to reject art. He was the one that was like, and then here's the kicker. He is shown every once in a while with the Marvel Legends toy stuff, making announcements. One of the announcements was doing some villains. And the cover they showed is a trade paperback to bring back the bad guys. Who worked on that cover but me? So it's like, okay, so my artwork was all right for you to brag about it as a new toy line, but my art wasn't good enough for the set.
Yeah, he was one of those guys I didn't really know, but I heard his name a lot.
Yeah, he was a real Marvel geek, big fan.
Is he still there?
He's still at Marvel as far as I know.
Yeah, he was one of Ike's guys. So
yeah, so he was one of the liaisons between Marvel and the toy company, Hasbro. So he always pops up, and again, he's like that connection because he was there for Marvel Legends at the beginning, and then now when Marvel Legends were being done by Toy Biz, and then it moved over to Hasbro. So there's that kind of connection there.
Let's see. Paulo Costa, those 30% are not only nerds anymore. Book talkers and books to gamers found out it takes less time reading a graphic novel than a regular novel. And they convinced normies comics are hip. Oh, you're muted, Paulo.
Luckily, every comic in Portugal is an indie comic, so it's not like everyone is going to read some weird guys and aliens.
No, it's funny. One of the sketchbooks I got for Christmas, I was like, it came with a stick. And I'm like, I think it was my father was like, no, that's a pencil. I'm like, it looked like it was funny because it's like there's no markings on it. There's no markings on it. It's kind of rough hewn. It's not perfectly straight anywhere. I was like, why is there a stick? I have no idea what kind of pencil this is.
That's actually pretty funny. Yep.
I've never seen a pencil with 0 markings on it. Well, not even painted. That's raw wood.
Yeah, that is why. That reminds me of when I first got my very first art kit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, oh, this is cool. You know, a little sketch.
200 things in one.
This was more of like maybe 15 things in one. You know, at least 5 pencils. 5 pencils, a pencil sharpener, the sandpaper, a couple of the blunt. What was those called for the smudging sticks?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Right, so paper smudging stick.
Castillos
and all this,
or something. There's like a Spanish name for them. Castillos, or I don't remember.
Know, because I remember I read something about it smudging, and I would read all the stuff that it came with, and then they said an eraser, but I don't see an eraser in this thing. There's this thing that looks like a stick of gum, but where is this eraser? Never knew what a gummy eraser was. You know, so I opened this thing up and it's like, this is rubber thing, but I don't know what this is. And then reading everything else, it's like, is this the eraser? That doesn't make any sense because I've never seen it before. So that's almost the same thing with, why is there a stick? Why is this piece of rubber eraser?
Eric P says, my sister got one of those pencils and a disappointing advent calendar this year. Ooh, imagine a comic book advent calendar. You could take all of those issues that nobody can sell, put it in, I don't know how you'd package it. You pull out a little drawer with a comic in it. You get a different comic every day. It'll be disappointing because it'll be some 25-cent comic that nobody can sell.
You would have to create the advent calendar, as you mentioned, with little tiny drawers.
Yeah. You have to figure out a way to, you'd need to manufacture. Probably be too expensive to manufacture.
It probably
than the comics would cost.
Because most advent calendars are usually the punch in the hole and the little toy comes out.
Yeah, there's a little tiny,
not that big.
Right.
You know?
I'm actually leaving now because my throat is really acting up.
All right, you have a good night then.
Feel better.
Okay.
Feel better, and we'll catch you next week.
Take care. I've seen one of those advent calendars that's a puzzle set, and you could make like the Starship Enterprise. So every day you get one piece, and you put it onto the thing, and at the end you make the Enterprise. So they came with drawers. And the drawers would have little boxes inside. Right. So you had like 3 major drawers. If you were to do very thin ones like that for the comics, maybe. But how many is in an advent calendar? 15?
No, it's more around a month. So maybe 20. I think maybe 20 something.
Okay, I thought it was always like the 12 days of Christmas.
No. It's Advent is like a month before Christmas, or 28 days before Christmas, or there's some number.
And then the last one is on Christmas.
Yes, I believe so.
So 25 days. So maybe it is before that. I never had an Advent calendar, so I don't know how many would go into something like that. And would the books need to be comic? Holiday themed or not, I wonder. Eric P says 25.
What does it tell us about Advent in my dictionary? It begins on the fourth Sunday before Christmas. Advent Sunday. Oh, I guess it can vary. So the 4th Sunday before Christmas would be like 21, and Christmas on a Wednesday, 22, 20. So it'd be like 24 days this year.
Okay.
One day from December 1st to Christmas. Well, sometimes Advent calendars make it the whole month. but it's not really an Advent calendar. But like I said, it's the fourth Sunday before Christmas is officially Advent. It's 25. Says yeah. So I think it would be 24 because it'd be 3 week, 4 whatever.
Yeah.
Being that it's the fourth Sunday before Christmas, it's going to vary. But I guess the calendars maybe they standardize.
And it'd probably be easier to do mini comics.
Yeah.
Those little 2-inch comics type things.
My Christmas cracker came with a comic word balloon shaped Post-it notes, and my stocking Kinder Egg was an art sampler. Double art mystery tools. Let's see the last comic I got, graphic novel, is this is what's the name of it? Stitches. Short stories by Hirokatsu Kihara with art by Junto Ito. So the beginning of it, Junto Ito is that Japanese horror artist who did the book Spirals, amongst other things. I've got a few things by him now. He's pretty cool. So, but it's got short stories with him illustrating them. And then in the back is one of his comic stories that reads the Japanese way. So from the front, it's illustrated short stories, and from the back, I think it's a 12-page comic. Now begins the manga portion of Stitches by Junto Ito, a previously unpublished story based on a true tale, collected by Hirokatsu Kihara to celebrate the collection of these stories into book form. So I guess he, so you read it, but you read it the Western way at the beginning, and then you flip it over and you read it the Eastern way. So I look forward to this. Viz Media. Let's see, when did this actually come out? I don't know. The afterwards about the authors. Didn't they have some publishing information? Is it on this side? Is it between them? There's the afterwards. Stop. I don't see any publishing information in here. Got it.
Dust check it.
Never didn't come with a dust check. That's weird. Is there a you got Viz signature?
Right.
I don't know what year it came out because I can't find the publishing info. Maybe they hid it somewhere, but you really don't want to hide that stuff. The library is, the
indicia is an important thing.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, we don't own this stuff. Who cares? This is a tale from about 20 years. But I look forward to reading that one too. Messages in a Bottle, Godzilla War for Humanity, and Stitches were my 3 comic book portions of my Christmas. Did you get any comics for Christmas?
No, I only got some action figures and soap. So no comic books. There are some books. I got to recheck my Amazon wish list, but I'm sure I have some books on there.
Right.
Some guidebooks. I need to go look at them because there may be stuff on there that are no longer in print and people can't find them. So I may have to put some new omnibuses on there and maybe some of those art books.
My mother picked up the Godzilla one from me off of my pull list, on my wish list, because she was like, I recognize him. So that's why she picked that. She knew who Godzilla was. The art on this one is really fun. It's got a sort of joyful, kiddish quality.
Yeah, I like the bright colors in it.
Yeah.
And the way that looks. Again, I'm quite surprised. I've been pleasantly surprised on the art directions that a lot of these Godzilla books are going, in,
Yeah.
where they're letting a lot of independent creators just go off on it with their own art.
Masterpiece Theater, Tom Scioli. Yeah, it's like that got me buying it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it looks like they're having a lot of fun with it.
Right.
Let's see.
SBPT says, have any of you read Imanon, Memories of Imanon by Kenji Surata? I've never read that one. That name is familiar, the name of the story, Imanon, but I don't think I've ever read that one.
Yeah, I have not heard of that.
And Eric P says Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater #2 was great and colorful. Yeah, I really enjoyed. And
so.
Next issue we get the we get the Frankenstein's monster and Creature and Wolfman and all those fun fellas.
Oh yeah, the American monsters.
I think that might be one I would double dip on and buy a nice collected edition. If one, I don't know who's publishing that. Is it IDW?
It's IDW.
I don't know if they put out like hardcover collections of stuff like that.
I don't know about hardcovers, but they do a lot of the trade paperbacks. Because
trade paperbacks, I wouldn't be as interested in. As I think they did pull a Godzilla, James Stokoe Godzilla hardcover out. So maybe they do sometimes.
Because I did get the IDW catalog. And
Eric P says, I'm glad to see that Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater is making a lot of best of 2024 lists. Oh, that's cool. I don't think I've seen any of those lists so far. Oddly, I have seen about half a dozen TikToks of best, bookie books. Best books, but I haven't seen a best comic book list. I'll have to make my own up again. I think I did the last couple of years make a list of my favorites. So if you go over to radiantcomics.com, one of my students like 2 months ago asked me what my favorite comics were. In the last 2 weeks, I've posted 2 blogs on my favorite comics. So if you go to jaredosborne.com and click on my webcomic and blog, you can find it there.
So I have the IDW catalog, and I'm sorry to say there's only one Godzilla book being advertised, and I don't see any trade paperbacks being advertised. So this is the IDW catalog. There's the IDW New Ugly logo.
Yeah.
And the only book that's coming out is called Godzilla Heist. It has a nice Bob Egerton cover. He was like the Godzilla artist for many years in the 90s, because he would be the cover artist for a bunch of the novels, and he would do artwork for G-Fan magazine, so he would be all over the place. So there's only one book called Godzilla Heist. So I guess just looking at the car is the Godzilla versus Fast and the Fury characters, I guess. I don't know. But I don't see anything here about hardcovers. So they do make trade paperbacks, but I don't see anything with hardcovers on here.
Yeah. Eric P says it looks like Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater trade paperback is slated for July 1st, 2025.
Okay.
SBPT is telling us about Imanon. It's so beautiful. We have the full series in Portuguese now, but we found out at the end of the last volume the series is incomplete since 2008 because it was canceled in Japan. That's never any fun. I just took a screenshot of the name, though, so I'm going to look it up now. I'm going to look it up.
And to round off the last bit of books that I have, Absolute Batman issue #3.
Okay. Have you read the first 2?
No, I had picked those up to read them because I was hearing such good things about it. I decided, all right, might as well put it on my list. So I think it's on my list starting with issue 4. But
somehow issue 1 was under-ordered and I think fell under the radar a little bit briefly. Then word of mouth got a lot of people interested in it.
Exactly. So I think I ordered it from the back issue for from the website for Midtown Comics, issue 1 and 2, since I picked up 3. But because I was hearing so much good stuff, I figured,
Right.
why
Who's
not?
doing that, by the way?
This is being done by Scott Snyder is the writer. Artist is Nick Dragotta.
Dragotta?
Is it Dragotta?
I think it's Dragotta. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay,
That's how I've heard it said, but I don't know.
Colorist is Frank Martin.
Dragotta, one of those.
And it's inked, it's lettered by Clayton Cowles.
Okay. I think Nick Dragotta did East of West that I liked years ago. Mm-hmm.
It has some nice artwork.
Yeah, let's hold on. Let me get it bigger again so we can see. Okay. Yes, East of West was nice looking.
It opens up with a flashback, which is pretty cool because the artwork is a little muted in it. So I'm in, what I've seen, I liked. So,
right.
I'll probably give it a read this weekend.
Since you bought 3 issues, you may as well read it.
Why not? And then there's Thundercats issue 11.
Thundercats.
Doo-doo. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 63, where you have a bigger look at this new Spidey costume.
That is a weird costume.
So it's like they inverted the blue and the red and then gave him a scarf.
Negative, Spidey. Why a scarf? I don't know. Just a visual element that the artist can draw.
Because in 5 to 10 years, all superheroes are going to be wearing scarves. Like they're now all wearing hoodies.
Yeah.
And the last book that I have here is DC's Connect, which is their catalog.
Hush
2. Because there's a 2 hidden in the U.
Is Jim Lee drawing that?
Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee presents a all-new epic Batman. So maybe Jim's back at a DC for all these covers.
Back drawing for a little bit.
So I'm guessing these are all the variant covers.
Huh. He has made a lot more money at DC over the years not drawing.
Mm-hmm. So, nice catalog. DC books are always in the work.
SBPT is talking about that series again. What was the name of it? Imaman. 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con, the series was listed in the underrated but awesome manga category. Dark Horse published it in the U.S. I'm definitely going to check that out. And he says Nick Dragotta has a cool creator-owned miniseries named Ghost Cage. Oh, I'll have to check that out. Ghost Cage.
And Image is doing a catalog as well.
There you go.
So now I have at least 4 different catalogs of books I'm probably not going to buy.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention last week that I noticed was in the beginning, once we turn over to 2025, everything that was created in the 1920s will be in the public domain.
Yeah, Popeye the Sailor Man.
Popeye the Sailor Man will be in the public domain, at least the first part of it. Whatever was created before 1930, you'll be able to use. Mm-hmm. And Tintin in the U.S. will be in the public domain.
Oh, okay.
So Tintin's going to be in the public domain, and a bunch of big books too. Like I forget which books they were. Literary book. You pop over to here and see if I have. I think I still have the tab open. Thousands of works. Oh, Buck Rogers.
Right, the 5 something AD, 5-3. Buck Rogers' original name was something AD at Argam. What was it? It was he wasn't named Buck in the book yet. He was basically William Rogers.
The character Buck Rogers first appeared in 1929, is in public domain in 2025. But technically, the futuristic space hero has already been copyright free for decades, despite claims that he was still copyrighted. This is because copyright registration for Buck Rogers' comic strip was not renewed, so that the copyright expired after 28 years. Also, the original version of the character was actually introduced in a novella as Anthony Rogers in 1928. Right. That character has long been public domain as well. And there's a whole bunch of comic strips you've never heard of. Showgirl.
Yeah. Well, that's like King Kong's copyright. It's very weird in itself because the novel went into public domain. And the novel was written after the movie.
Huh.
And then when Donkey Kong became a thing, Universal got involved and was saying, no, that belongs to us. And they're working on a movie, which is the new King Kong from the 70s, with Jessica Lange. Was it Jessica Lange?
And there's already 3 low-budget Popeye horror movies.
Of course they are.
Ready to go. Eric P. says the Marx Brothers' first film will be in the public domain. And SBPT, also Hagray's Tintin, looking forward to the Eric Larson version. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet Eric Larson will probably have Popeye as well.
Yeah, we've had Mickey Mouse in the last few issues.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Larson will throw him right in there.
Yep.
Deals are on the way. I was just I was just having an adventure printing today. I don't know if you've ever printed out a bunch of stuff, but I was printing out my Gatsby illustrated book that I've been working on. This summer, I printed out a proof version of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I took 11 by 17 paper, printed 2 pages each side, front and back, folded it over, stapled together 4 pages at a time, so 16-page signatures. It's only about 180 pages, I think. Put that all together, put holes in it, put ring binders through it. So I got the whole thing. Well, just this last, month or two, I decided to add more illustrations to it. So I had 16 more illustration. I was adding these ones I was showing you. Where is it? With the pasted up, where I was pasting up right over my cartoon drawings and drawing new stuff on it. So I had like 16 of these to add in, which meant that I had to print front and back. I figured out the way I was going to do it was like, I didn't want to reprint the whole book. I just wanted to tear out the old pages and put the new ones in.
Right.
But I set it up in 16-page signatures. I'm like, they're not in individual page signatures. But I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to tear out the individual page and then so I have to replace one page with 2 pages. I have to replace front and back with front and back, front and back.
Yeah.
Which means I had to print out 32 pages. Doesn't sound like that big a deal. It's usually not if things go well. But this is not just 32-page plain paper. I'm printing them at photo quality because they're illustrations. And so what would happen was, and going into this, I was like, you know what? My printer has been working pretty well so far. This must mean I'm due. Because also what happens is, I have noticed, especially with this printer is new, but it's not a new model. It's the same model I've had for a decade. The old one broke. I bought a new one. And but this one, for some reason, usually when you print and you run out of ink, it stops printing and gives you a message, hey, we're out of ink. This one, though it's the same model, doesn't quite does do that. It just keeps printing, which is why I have to check it often. And I can't just print a whole bunch of pages at once. I print a few at a time. So the first half of it went fine. And then I look at the one, and clearly it's out of ink of one color. There's 6 cups, CMYK, gray, and another gray, and another black. So there's like 2 blacks, a gray, and 3 colors. So I'm like, got to change. I buy the cheap knockoff ink. That could have something to do with it too, but it never had anything to do with it with my old one, which is the same. So what happens is, and I've noticed this, I have to replace these 2 colors. Whenever I replace the colors, the print head clogs, and the colors don't come out. So I have to run cleaning cycles. Cleaning cycles use up the ink.
Right.
So what happens, I replaced 2 of the colors, finally got it going after like half an hour. Then noticed like one of the colors drops out again. I don't know which one. I go in and I know what happens is, as you use the cleaning cycles, some of the other ink cartridges that are low start to run out, and you don't know it because you're not printing anything.
Right.
And it's not giving me warnings anymore. So it runs out. I'm like, you know what? I'm just replacing the other 4 ink cartridges. I don't get, like, when you get the cheap knockoff ones, you don't care. I have so many black ink cartridges that I can't use them. I cannot possibly use up that many. You can't print in just black.
Yeah.
It always throws some color in there. So no matter what, the color is going to run out before these million black ink cartridges I have. So I'm like, I'm just throwing new ones in there. Got it running again. It took me from, let's say, 1 o'clock till about 5 o'clock to print 36 pages. And the failure rate was, I had 20 pages that I couldn't use. So out of 36, I had to print 20 of them twice.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, wow, that's a high failure rate.
Yeah.
That is just wow. But got it all printed out. I still haven't got it bound in with the other stuff because that'll take a little more doing. But I'm like, all right, now I can look at it again. It's like, I don't want to print 180 pages.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I have a black and white printer, really, because I don't need to print all that much.
Right.
So when I went looking for a new printer, it's like, I just need a black and white printer, mainly to print out labels for eBay.
Yeah.
When I was shipping stuff, because most of all my other stuff is digital and I just send in the PDF files.
Right.
When I worked for Random House, for the first time I worked for Random House, I was working for an editor when Del Rey was doing the comic books. And so I was doing manga with them. And the first assignment, they requested that I would print out the pages. That's 325 pages of manga off of my home printer, which at the time I didn't have a home printer. So I had to go to like a local print shop and print out these pages from a PDF.
How much did that cost?
I think it ran maybe $30 at the end. And it was like, I'm going to have to charge you guys these $30.
Yeah.
And then it was like, so they had some corrections, and they were like, if you could send us the printed pages, like, I can't print out these pages again. That's just way too much. It's like, oh, just send us the PDF. We'll print it off here. It's like, you're the big publishing house. Of course you could print it off there. Why are you asking me, to make it easier for you to proof them, maybe?
Yeah.
But that was like the only time I printed it. I was like, I had to go somewhere, and it wasn't like it printed right away. I think I had to send them the files digitally and then go pick them up on my way
right
to the publisher to hand them the pages. And it was like, oh. And before that, I had a laser printer. I mean, I still have it. I haven't used it in decades. It's a big monster of a thing that we got at Staples on a clearance sale. So it was more like, oh, let's give this a try. But like each of the cartridges are like $100.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we had it working for a while, and it was fun to print out dummy copies of our comic books to see what it looked like, or close to what it was going to print in.
And buy a new toner.
Yeah. So the machine itself was dirt cheap. It was the toner. And they were individual cartridges. So that in itself was like, okay, maybe we could get away with the black for now, but we still need the yellow, and it worked for a while. Sometimes it would jam.
Yeah. And
it had this nice, the blacks would print on it and leave almost like an etching effect on it, which is kind of neat looking in itself. And then we would print like mini comics for just conventions.
Right.
Kind of a thing. But
an inkjet printer, the inkjet printer is the same way. The printers are often cheap and the ink is super expensive. Like I use the knockoff inks.
Yeah.
To use the official Canon inks, it would cost me about $80 to fill up the printer with ink. Using the knockoff inks, it'll cost me about $4. I mean, it's that big a difference. It's insane. Yeah. Which is why when it gives me trouble, I'm like, I'll just refill the whole thing. I'll have to put new ink cartridges in for everything. I'm done.
Yeah, I haven't had to like print out anything in mass for so long. I've run out of paper more than I've run out of ink so far.
It's all my own stuff that I print. I don't print, it's all my own projects that I print.
Yeah,
I nothing to do with anybody else's business.
Yeah, I printed out a couple of things that I might be drawing, and I end up like, oh, let me draw it, print it out on the computer. I print it out and then use that as a backdrop to redraw something. And like I said, when I would sell stuff on eBay, I would print out the labels.
Yeah.
But I've had the same ink cartridge for years because it's been so little that I was, I would maybe sell 1 or 2 items every 3 months. So it's like, that type of thing. So I've been lucky, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm sure I'm going to be out of ink the next time I go need to use it.
All right. Well, we should wrap it up for the week with balloons and confetti. There's my balloons and lasers.
I don't think I have activated the thing yet.
You got to activate it.
I have to activate it. You tell me about it. Once I get off, I completely forget to look up what it is that I have to activate. I'm going to write it down.
Let's see, what's the name of it? Reactions. You got to turn on reactions in your camera icon. It's like it's an OS thing.
In my camera icon.
Like, do you have I don't know what system you're running. Do you have a little, if you look like in your menu above where, it says Chrome, File, Edit, there should be a little camera icon that's green to show you the camera is running. You're broadcasting.
I'm on Chrome.
It would be on the top above Chrome, even in the Apple menu itself above there. What OS are you running?
I am on OS.
Is it an old one or is it up to date?
I'm on Monterey. 12.7.6. Because the
Yeah,
computer itself is
it's probably not on yours. I'm on
okay.
Sequoia 15.
Okay,
So you're
yeah.
3 operating systems behind. I imagine it's not there.
Yeah, because my computer is 2014. So,
All right.
I got 10
Well, then
years off.
everybody have a good night out there.
Take care, all.
We will
Have a great
catch you
weekend.
next time.